The Great Hall on Centaurus Prime had never seen such anger before. Ambassador Zixthara slammed her 6 fingers on the crystal table so hard that cracks spread across its surface. Her purple skin turned dark with rage as she looked at the other council members around the massive circular table. "Those humans have been quiet for 50 years, she said through clenched teeth. 50 long years since we told them to stay in their little corner of space. I thought they finally learned their place." The other aliens in the room nodded their heads in agreement. High Counselor Mordak was a giant bug-like creature from the hive clusters. His 6 legs clicked nervously on the floor as he spoke. Maybe they finally understood that they don't belong with civilized races like us. When they first came to space 300 years ago, they were nothing but trouble. Admiral Kethvar from the Stellar Dominion stood up on his metal legs. His warrior race had taken over 17 different star systems through pure force. He was used to being the strongest in any room, but today something worried him. "My scouts have been watching the edge of their solar system. They report strange things happening out there. Energy readings that we have never seen before. Construction on a scale that should be impossible for such a primitive race." Zixthara waved her hand dismissively. "That cannot be true. We cut off all their supply lines 50 years ago. They cannot get the materials they need to build anything dangerous. When we isolated them, they barely had fusion drives that could get them to their outer planets." The council chamber was filled with representatives from 47 different alien species. Each one had voted to isolate humanity decades ago, when the humans first tried to join galactic society. The vote had been unanimous. Humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, and too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. Mordak's compound eyes focused on a holographic display showing the human solar system. "Perhaps we made the right choice. Look at their history. They fought wars among themselves for thousands of years. They destroyed their own environment. They built weapons that could wipe out their entire planet. What kind of species does such things?" "Exactly," Zixthara agreed. "We gave them a simple choice. Stay in your own system and live in peace or face complete destruction." Most of us expected them to fight back and prove exactly why they needed to be stopped. Instead, they just went silent. The silence from Earth had been complete. No messages, no attempts to break the blockade, no protests or negotiations. The humans had simply accepted their fate and disappeared from galactic view. For 50 years, their system had been as quiet as empty space. Admiral Kethvar pulled up more data on his personal display. "My ships have been monitoring the outer edge of their system for the past decade. The energy signatures started small, but they have been growing stronger every year. Whatever they are building out there, it is big." "How big?" asked Counselor Vashati, a floating jellyfish-like creature from the water worlds. Her translucent body pulsed with nervous light patterns. "The energy output suggests construction facilities larger than anything we have ever built. Multiple installations, each one the size of a small moon. But that should be impossible. They do not have the technology or the resources." Zixthara stood up and walked to the massive window that showed the capital city of Centaurus Prime, stretching for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Millions of aliens from dozens of species lived and worked together in harmony here. This was what civilization looked like. This was what the humans could never be part of. "You are worrying about nothing," she said without turning around. "Humans are clever, I will give them that. But they are still primitives compared to us. We have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Our technology is beyond their understanding. Even if they have been building something, it cannot be a threat to us." Mordak clicked his mandibles together thoughtfully. "Perhaps we should send a larger scouting force to investigate, just to be certain." "No," Zixthara said firmly. "That would only encourage them. The isolation decree is clear. No contact whatsoever. If we start paying attention to them again, they might think we are worried. Better to let them play with whatever toys they are building in the dark." But Admiral Kethvar was not convinced. His warrior instincts told him that something was very wrong. In his experience, enemies were most dangerous when they were quiet. "I request permission to increase patrols along the border of their system. Not to make contact, but to gather better intelligence." "Denied," Zixthara said quickly. "The last thing we need is to give them any reason to think we are taking them seriously. They are insects compared to the might of the Galactic Council. Let them build their little projects. It will keep them busy and out of our affairs." The meeting continued for several more hours, but the decision had been made. The Galactic Council would continue to ignore humanity. Confident in their own superiority, they had ruled the galaxy for millennia without challenge. What could one isolated species possibly do to change that? Far away, beyond the orbit of Pluto, massive construction yards worked around the clock in complete silence. Ships larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen took shape in the darkness. Weapons that used principles the aliens had never discovered were installed and tested. And in command centers that hummed with quiet efficiency, human officers planned for the day when isolation would end. The aliens thought 50 years of silence meant surrender. They were about to learn that sometimes silence meant something very different. Sometimes silence meant preparation. And humanity had been preparing for exactly this moment since the day they were told to know their place. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's place was wherever they decided to put it. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the final preparations for humanity's return to the galaxy. The bridge around him buzzed with quiet activity as his crew ran through their final checks. Every station showed green lights, every system was ready, and every member of his crew knew exactly what they had to do. Status report? Commander, Jake said to his second-in-command. Lisa Parker. Lisa looked up from her tactical display with a confident smile. All fleet elements report ready for departure, sir. 2,000 ships across all classes are in position and awaiting your orders. The Titan-class dreadnoughts are showing perfect readings on all systems. Jake nodded and looked out through the massive viewports that surrounded the bridge. The sight that greeted him would have been impossible 50 years ago. Ship after ship stretched into the distance, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and determination. The smallest vessels were the size of alien battleships, while the largest dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Communications. Get me a fleet-wide channel, Jake ordered. Channel open. Sir? Replied Communications Officer Ryan Bell. Jake's voice carried to every ship in the massive formation. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today we end 50 years of isolation. Today we show the galaxy what humanity has become. Stay sharp, stay professional, and remember what we're fighting for. The future of our species starts now. 2,000 captains acknowledged the order across the fleet. These were not the same humans who had been turned away from galactic society 5 decades ago. These were warriors forged in the crucible of isolation, trained to a level of perfection that the galaxy could not imagine. Commander Parker walked over to stand beside Jake as he watched the fleet. Hard to believe we've come this far, she said quietly. When I was a child, we were barely able to reach Mars. Now look at us. Jake remembered those early days too. When the Galactic Council had issued their isolation decree, humanity had faced a choice. They could accept their fate and remain forever trapped in their own solar system, or they could use that isolation to become something stronger. The choice had been easy. Sir, came the voice of Lieutenant Torres from the navigation station. We have an incoming transmission from Earth Command. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Kate Sullivan in her command center deep beneath the surface of Luna. Her steel-gray hair and determined expression had become symbols of human resolve during the long years of preparation. Behind her, dozens of officers worked at stations that coordinated the defense of the entire solar system. Captain Morrison, Admiral Sullivan said, you have authorization to proceed with Operation Homecoming. 50 years ago, they told us to know our place. Today, we show them exactly what that place is. Jake straightened to attention. Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down. I know you won't, Sullivan replied. The entire human race is counting on you and your fleet. Make us proud. The transmission ended and Jake turned to his crew. These men and women had trained their entire lives for this moment. They were the children and grandchildren of the humans who had been rejected by the galaxy. They had grown up knowing that someday they would have to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. Navigation, set course for Centaurus Prime, Jake ordered. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. The hyperspace drives that powered the human fleet were unlike anything the aliens used. While alien ships took hours or days to travel between systems, human vessels could cross the galaxy in minutes. It was just one of many technological advantages that 50 years of focused development had given them. Lieutenant Torres worked quickly at her station. Course laid in, sir. All ships report ready for jump. Engineering, how are our drives? Jake asked. Chief Engineer Bobby Walsh looked up from his console with a grin. Running like a dream, Captain. These new drives could take us to the edge of the galaxy and back, without breaking a sweat. The Defiance and her sister ships had been built using technology that the aliens had never imagined. While they had spent centuries perfecting what they already knew, humanity had started from scratch and built something completely new. Their weapons were more powerful, their shields were stronger, and their ships were faster than anything in the known galaxy. All stations report ready. "Sir," Commander Parker announced. Jake took one last look at the fleet that surrounded his ship. Each vessel represented years of human ingenuity and determination. They carried the hopes and dreams of an entire species that had been told they were not good enough for the galaxy. "Execute jump," Jake ordered. The Defiance shuddered slightly as its hyperspace drive engaged. Around them, space twisted and folded as the laws of physics bent to human engineering. In seconds, the fleet had vanished from the edge of the solar system, leaving only empty space where 2,000 warships had waited. As they traveled through hyperspace, Jake thought about the journey that had brought them to this point. When the aliens had isolated humanity, most people had been angry or afraid, but a few had seen it as an opportunity. If the galaxy would not accept humans as they were, then humans would become something the galaxy could not ignore. The isolation had united humanity like nothing before it. Every nation, every corporation, every individual had worked toward the same goal. They had built massive shipyards in the asteroid belt, developed new technologies and laboratories on every world, and trained the finest military force in human history. "Approaching Centaurus Prime," Lieutenant Torres announced. "Ready to drop out of hyperspace on your command." Jake looked around at his crew one more time. They were calm, professional, and ready. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. All ships prepare to drop out of hyperspace. "Remember, we are not here to destroy, we are here to claim our rightful place. But if they want to test us, they will learn exactly what humanity is capable of." The fleet dropped back into normal space around Centaurus Prime, and the galaxy changed forever. The human fleet materialized around Centaurus Prime in a display of precision that left every alien observer speechless. 2,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace simultaneously, each one appearing in its exact predetermined position without the slightest deviation. The formation was a three-dimensional masterpiece of military engineering that surrounded the planet like a steel net. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, humanity's flagship and the largest vessel ever constructed. Through the massive viewports, she could see her fleet stretching in every direction, each ship a testament to 50 years of human determination and ingenuity. "Fleet status report," she ordered calmly. Commander Danny Foster looked up from his tactical station with satisfaction. "All ships report optimal positioning, Admiral. Weapon systems are charged and ready. Defensive screens are at full power. The fleet is ready for any contingency." Sullivan nodded as she studied the tactical display showing Centaurus Prime and its defenses. The alien orbital stations looked impressive, but she knew they were built using technology that was centuries behind human capabilities. Their shields would hold for perhaps minutes against modern human weapons. "Communications? Open a channel to the planet," she ordered. "Channel open." "Admiral," replied Lieutenant Amy Walsh from her station. Sullivan's image appeared on every screen across Centaurus Prime, from the council chambers to the smallest civilian communication device. Her voice reached into every building, every ship, every outpost in the system. "People of Centaurus Prime, I am Admiral Kate Sullivan. 50 years ago, your leaders decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. Today I am here to demonstrate exactly how correct that assessment was." In the council chambers, High Counselor Mordak's 6 legs clicked nervously as he tried to formulate a response. The precision of the human fleet's arrival had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. His people were master strategists, but even they had never coordinated such a massive fleet movement with such perfect accuracy. "This is Mordak," he transmitted on all frequencies. "You are in violation of galactic law. Our defense fleet is mobilizing. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Admiral Sullivan's response came immediately, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who held all the advantages. "Your defense fleet consists of 43 vessels, Counselor. They are currently scattered across the system and would require at least 6 hours to reach effective engagement range. We destroyed your outer sensor grid 3 minutes ago without you even noticing." The aliens in the council chamber looked at their displays in shock. Sullivan was correct. The outer ring of sensor platforms that had monitored approaches to the System for centuries showed nothing but empty space where sophisticated detection equipment had been moments before. "How is that possible?" whispered Ambassador Zixthara. "Those platforms were shielded and armed. They should have detected any attack and responded automatically." On the Sovereign's bridge, Sullivan continued her demonstration. "Computer, display our current weapon status for the Galactic Council." A holographic projection appeared above the planet, visible to every observer in the system. It showed a detailed schematic of human weapon systems, with power outputs and ranges that made even the most advanced alien technology look primitive by comparison. "Each of our ships carries enough firepower to level a planet," Sullivan explained calmly. "Our smallest frigates are more heavily armed than your largest dreadnoughts. But raw power is not what should concern you most. What should concern you is our precision." She paused to let that sink in before continuing. "Computer, target the asteroid mining facility in Sector 7. Demonstrate our accuracy capabilities." The Sovereign's main cannon began to charge with a low hum that seemed to resonate through space itself. The weapon was a masterpiece of human engineering, capable of focusing energy with a precision that alien scientists had declared theoretically impossible. In the asteroid field, millions of kilometers away, automated mining platforms worked to extract valuable minerals from the floating rocks. The facility had operated for decades without interruption, its massive processing stations converting raw asteroids into refined materials for galactic industry. The human cannon fired with a brilliant flash that lit up the void of space. The beam of concentrated energy crossed the vast distance in seconds, striking the central processing station with surgical precision. The explosion that followed was controlled and contained, destroying only the targeted facility while leaving surrounding asteroids completely untouched. "That was our lowest power setting," Sullivan announced matter-of-factly. "We have 1,799 more ships with similar capabilities. Each one can target individual buildings from the edge of a star system." The council chamber erupted in panicked voices as the implications became clear. The humans had not just built a larger fleet. They had developed technology that made existing defenses obsolete. Their weapons could strike with pinpoint accuracy from distances that made retaliation impossible. Admiral Keithavar tried to maintain his composure, but his warrior instincts told him that this battle was already lost. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely controlled. "What I want," Sullivan replied, "is very simple. The Galactic Council will be restructured with humanity as the primary military power. All species will have equal representation and equal rights. The practice of isolating developing civilizations will end immediately." "And if we refuse?" Mordek asked, though he already knew the answer. Sullivan gestured toward the viewports of her bridge, where the human fleet maintained its perfect formation around the planet. "Then you will discover that 50 years of isolation taught humanity many things. We learned to be self-sufficient. We learned to build better weapons. Most importantly, we learned that sometimes the only way to earn respect is to be too dangerous to ignore." Captain Jake Morrison, monitoring the situation from the UES Defiance, watched as panic spread through the alien communication networks. His tactical officer, Commander Lisa Parker, looked up from her station with a slight smile. "Sir, we are receiving surrender offers from 6 different species, 3 requests for military alliance, and what appears to be a marriage proposal from the Crystallian ambassador." Jake chuckled despite the tension of the moment. "Note the alliances and politely decline the marriage proposal. But keep monitoring their communications. I want to know the moment any of them decides to try something stupid." Back on the Sovereign, Admiral Sullivan was concluding her demonstration. "You have 24 hours to provide your answer, Counselor. Use that time wisely. The age of human isolation is over. The question now is whether the galaxy adapts to that reality peacefully, or whether we need to make our point more forcefully." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Around Centaurus Prime, the human fleet waited with the patience of predators who knew their prey had nowhere to run. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's place among the stars was wherever they chose to make it. 3 weeks after the human fleet had appeared over Centaurus Prime, the galaxy had changed forever. The newly restructured Galactic Council convened for the first time with humanity, not just as members, but as the acknowledged dominant power among the stars. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat at the head of the massive council table, her presence a constant reminder of the 2,000 ships that still orbited the planet. The council chamber had been redesigned to accommodate the new reality. Where once 47 alien species had debated as equals, now there was a clear hierarchy with humanity at its apex. The other species sat in their assigned positions, their former arrogance replaced by careful deference to their new human overlords. The terms of galactic reorganization are simple and non-negotiable, Admiral Sullivan explained to the assembled representatives. Humanity will assume responsibility for galactic security and defense. In return, all trade barriers between species will be eliminated. All worlds will have equal representation in council decisions, and the practice of isolating developing civilizations is permanently banned. High Counselor Mordak, his compound eyes focused on the table before him, spoke carefully. Admiral, surely you understand that such sweeping changes will take time to implement. Our societies have operated under the previous system for millennia. Sullivan's expression remained unchanged. Counselor, you seem to be under the impression that this is a negotiation. It is not. These changes will be implemented immediately, or your worlds will find themselves under direct human administration until compliance is achieved. The threat was delivered calmly, but every alien in the room understood its implications. The human demonstration 3 weeks ago had shown exactly what their ships were capable of. No planetary defense system in the galaxy could stand against such overwhelming technological superiority. Ambassador Zixithara raised one of her 6-fingered hands tentatively. Admiral, what guarantees do we have that humanity will not abuse this position of power? How do we know you will not become the very tyrants you claim to oppose? You don't, Sullivan replied bluntly. But consider your alternatives. You can work with us to build a better galaxy for all species, or you can resist and discover exactly why isolation made humanity stronger instead of weaker. The choice is yours, but the outcome is not in doubt. Captain Jake Morrison sat at Sullivan's right hand as humanity's military liaison to the Council. He had been promoted after the successful demonstration of human power, and now served as the bridge between the fleet and the new galactic government. He watched the alien representatives with professional interest, noting how each species was adapting to the new reality. Some, like the Crystallians, had embraced the change enthusiastically. Their transparent crystalline forms practically glowed with excitement at the prospect of unrestricted trade and technological exchange. Others, like Admiral Kethvar's warrior people, sat in sullen silence, their pride wounded but their survival instincts intact. There is another matter to discuss, Sullivan continued. The question of war reparations for 50 years of illegal isolation. The aliens shifted nervously in their seats. They had hoped this topic would not arise, but they should have known better. Humans had long memories, and 50 years of forced isolation was not something they would simply forget. Mordak's mandibles clicked together anxiously. Admiral, surely you cannot hold us responsible for decisions made by previous council generations. Can't I? Sullivan asked with raised eyebrows. The isolation decree was renewed annually for 50 years. Every one of you voted to maintain it. Every one of you benefited from keeping humanity contained while you enjoyed the resources of the galaxy. She activated a holographic display showing detailed economic data. Our calculations indicate that isolation cost humanity approximately 12 trillion galactic credits in lost trade and development opportunities. We expect full compensation within 10 standard years. The number was staggering. Some of the smaller species would need to restructure their entire economies to pay their share, but none of them dared to protest. The alternative was too terrible to contemplate. Commander Lisa Parker, now serving as Jake's aide, leaned over to whisper in his ear. Sir, we are receiving reports from across the galaxy. Human trading vessels are being welcomed at ports that banned us for 50 years. Our technology is in high demand, especially our new hyperspace drives. Jake nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy was learning that cooperation with humanity brought benefits while resistance brought consequences. It was a lesson that some species learned faster than others. There is one final matter, Sullivan announced. The establishment of human naval bases in key strategic locations throughout the galaxy. These facilities will ensure rapid response to any threats against galactic peace and security. The aliens understood what this really meant. Human warships would be positioned throughout their territories, ready to enforce compliance with the new order. It was occupation disguised as protection, but none of them were in a position to object. Admiral Kethvar finally spoke, his voice heavy with defeat. How many bases do you intend to establish? As many as necessary, Sullivan replied. Initially, we will require facilities in each of the 47 member systems. Additional bases will be constructed as needed to maintain order. The meeting continued for several more hours, as the details of galactic reorganization were finalized. Trade agreements were signed, defense treaties were established, and the framework for humanity's new galactic empire was put into place. It was all done legally, with proper documentation and official signatures, but the underlying threat of force made every agreement a foregone conclusion. As the session concluded and the alien representatives filed out in subdued silence, Admiral Sullivan turned to Captain Morrison with a slight smile. "I believe that went rather well, don't you think, Captain?" "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "Though I suspect our real work is just beginning. Conquering the galaxy was the easy part. Now we have to run it." Sullivan nodded, looking out through the chamber's massive windows at the stars that now belong to humanity. For the first time in human history, we are not looking up at the galaxy in wonder. Now the galaxy looks up to us in fear, respect, and perhaps eventually, admiration. Jake followed her gaze to the viewport, where human patrol ships could be seen maintaining their positions around the planet. "Do you think we made the right choice, Admiral? 50 years ago, we could have chosen to accept isolation and live peacefully in our own system. Could we?" Sullivan asked. "Humans were never meant to be caged, Captain. We are explorers, builders, conquerors. The aliens made a critical error when they tried to contain us. They gave us time to become something they could not control." She stood up and walked to the window, her reflection overlaying the view of human ships patrolling alien space. "Besides, look at what we have accomplished already. Trade is flowing freely between species that had been enemies for centuries. Developing civilizations are being welcomed instead of isolated. The strong are protecting the weak instead of exploiting them. And if they rebel?" Jake asked. Sullivan's smile turned cold. "Then they will learn why the galaxy is better off with humanity in charge. We didn't ask for this responsibility, Captain, but we will fulfill it. The age of human dominance among the stars has begun, and it will be an age of peace, prosperity, and progress for all who accept our leadership. The galaxy would never be the same." The emergency alarm screamed through the Galactic Council chambers on Centaurus Prime as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Every sensor station, every monitoring post, every patrol ship was sending the same impossible message. Unknown vessels were moving through space at speeds that should not be possible. High Counselor Mordak's 6 legs clicked frantically on the floor as he tried to process the incoming data. His compound eyes darted between dozens of holographic displays, each one showing energy signatures that defied everything they knew about space travel. "This cannot be accurate," he chittered nervously. "These readings suggest vessels moving through hyperspace at 3 times our maximum speed. Our best ships cannot achieve such velocities." Admiral Kethvar stood at the tactical display, his metal legs locked in position as he studied the incoming reports. His warrior instincts told him that something very dangerous was heading their way. "The signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The energy output suggests ships far larger than our dreadnoughts." Ambassador Zixathara paced back and forth across the chamber, her purple skin now pale with fear. "Where are they coming from? What species has the technology to build such vessels?" "The trajectory analysis is complete," announced sensor technician Velek from his station. "All vessels are heading directly for Centaurus Prime. Estimated time of arrival is 4 hours and 17 minutes. The chamber fell silent. Centaurus Prime was the heart of galactic civilization, home to the Galactic Council, and protected by the strongest defenses in known space. No enemy had ever dared to attack it directly. "How many ships?" Mordak asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Our sensors are having difficulty getting accurate readings through their jamming, but preliminary estimates suggest approximately 2,000 vessels of various sizes." The number hit the Council like a physical blow. The entire Galactic Council fleet numbered only 800 ships spread across 47 different species. Even if they could gather every vessel immediately, they would still be outnumbered more than 2 to 1. "This is impossible," Zixathara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "No single species has the resources to build such a fleet. It would take the combined shipyards of a dozen worlds working for decades." Admiral Kethvar was already accessing the defense grid. "I am activating all planetary shields and calling in every available ship. If this is an invasion force, we will make them pay dearly for every meter of space." But even as he spoke, doubts crept into his mind. His people were warriors who had conquered 17 systems through superior tactics and firepower. He knew what a truly dangerous enemy looked like, and these energy readings suggested something far beyond anything his people had ever faced. Counselor Vashati floated near the central display, her jellyfish-like body pulsing with nervous bioluminescence. Perhaps we should attempt communication. If this is a misunderstanding, we might be able to resolve it peacefully. With 2,000 unknown warships heading directly for our capital, Kethvar growled. This is clearly an act of war. Mordak's mandibles clicked together as he processed tactical data. Even if we could gather our full fleet, our ships are spread across the galaxy. It would take days to assemble even half our forces here. The reality of their situation was becoming clear. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace through overwhelming superiority. No single species had ever been strong enough to challenge them directly. Now someone was doing exactly that. Sir, Velik called out from his sensor station, the unknown vessels have dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of our system. They are maintaining formation and proceeding toward the planet at sublight speed. Put it on the main display, Mordak ordered. The massive holographic projector in the center of the chamber activated, showing the space around Centaurus Prime. At first there appeared to be nothing unusual. Then the display adjusted its scale, and gasps echoed through the chamber. Ships filled the display. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands of vessels arranged in a perfect three-dimensional formation that spoke of military precision beyond anything the Council had seen. The smallest ships were the size of alien battleships, while the largest were so massive they seemed to bend space around them. By the ancestors, whispered Zixthara, look at the size of those vessels. How is such construction even possible? The ships moved with perfect coordination, each one maintaining exact position relative to the others. There was no chaos, no random movement, just the deadly precision of a military force that knew exactly what it was doing. Incoming transmission, announced Communications Officer Timber. It is being broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. Put it through, Mordak ordered. Though his voice shook slightly, every screen in the chamber activated at once, showing the image of a human female in a crisp military uniform. She stood on what was clearly the bridge of a warship, with massive viewports behind her showing the assembled might of the human fleet stretching into the distance. The council members stared in shock. They had not seen a human face in 50 years, not since the isolation decree had been issued. This woman looked calm, confident, and completely in control of the situation. I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Earth Space Command, the human said, her voice carrying clearly through every translator in the chamber. For 50 years you told humanity to know our place in this galaxy. Today we have come to show you exactly what that place is. Mordak found his voice first. This is High Counselor Mordak of the Galactic Council. You are in violation of the isolation decree issued 50 years ago. Withdraw your forces immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Sullivan's expression did not change. High Counselor, the isolation decree is hereby revoked. Humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist among the stars. We are informing you of our intentions. This is an act of war, Admiral Kethvar snarled, stepping forward. You may have impressive ships, but you face the combined might of 47 worlds. Surrender now and we may show mercy. For the first time, Admiral Sullivan smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, you seem to be under the impression that you are in a position to make threats. Allow me to correct that misunderstanding. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside the massive windows, the human fleet continued its approach, each ship a reminder that the galaxy was about to change forever.